Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Mumford, and today we're going to be talking about using adjectives in sentences. After this lesson, you should be able to write complete sentences that contain adjectives. And let's review adjectives. Remember, an adjective is a word that describes a noun. For example, instead of just saying I ate a cupcake, I can say I ate a sweet cupcake. It's describing that cupcake. Instead of saying a ball, I might say I bounced the round ball. Instead of just saying the elephant was at the zoo, I might say there was a big elephant at the zoo. Instead of just talking about a frog was on a log, I might say the green frog sat on the log. Instead of just saying the fire, I might say we used the hot fire to roast marshmallows. Instead of just saying the girl, and to describe the girl I'm talking about, I might say the sad girl was walking down the street. So remember, again, adjectives are words that you use to describe a noun, what you're talking about. So let's look at this picture and let's talk about what adjectives I can use to describe this picture. The first thing I notice about this picture is that there's some glasses. How could I describe those glasses? And the word that comes to my mind, or the adjective that comes to my mind to describe those glasses, are colorful. There's lots of color in them. So, colorful glasses, colorful being the adjective. The next thing I notice is that there is a dog. But I just don't want to say the dog. How would I describe this dog? I can talk about the color of the dog. The dog is a white dog. So there's a white dog. White is the adjective to describe that dog. The next thing I notice is the dog's tongue. So a word that I would think of to describe this tongue is that it is very long. So there's a long tongue that I see in the picture. The next thing that I notice is around the dog's neck, there is a collar. So if I want to add an adjective to describe that collar, I could tell the color of it. And the collar is black. So black would be the adjective to describe the collar. The next thing I notice is that the dog has some teeth. And to describe those teeth, two of those teeth I notice right offhand is that they are very sharp. So sharp would be an adjective to describe the dog's teeth. I have a picture here that we're going to use to describe, using adjective to describe what we see in this picture. So we're going to use look at the nouns in the picture and come up with some adjectives for those nouns. So the first thing I notice is that this boy has on goggles. So I have to come up with some adjectives or an adjective to describe those goggles. The first thing that I think of is that those are some very big goggles or glasses that he has on. Next thing I notice is his shirt. So to describe his shirt, I could tell the color of his shirt. His shirt is green. So I see a green shirt. The next thing I notice about those goggles also is the color of those goggles. So I see that those goggles, for me, they look silver. So I see some silver goggles. Next thing I notice about the boy is that he has an expression on his face. So I can say that he's smiling. So a smiling boy. So smiling would be an adjective to describe this boy. He's smiling. And I also notice that his hair, I can tell you about the color of his hair. I notice that his hair is a dark color. So dark hair would be an adjective. So these are all the things that I notice about the nouns in this picture. So now we're going to take those adjectives and the nouns, and we're going to come up with a sentence, just one sentence about this picture. I can pick any of these nouns and adjectives to make into a complete sentence. But before I do that, I want to talk about cups. Because remember, when you write sentences, you have to think about the cups. You need to have all these things in your sentence. Make sure it's capitalized. Your sentence needs to start with a capital letter. Even if you're typing it, it needs to start with a capital letter. If you have a name or place in your sentence, they need to start with a capital letter. So remember those. Capitalization is the first thing. The next thing, once you write your sentence, go back and read it to make sure that you're not missing any words or you don't have any extra words in it and your sentence makes sense. That way, if someone else comes along and reads your sentence, they understand what you meant in your sentence. The third thing is the punctuation. If it is a question, make sure it has a question mark. If you want to show excitement in that sentence, make sure you have an exclamation. If you're just making a statement, make sure you have a period. You need to have an ending at punctuation at the end of that sentence. And remember, don't just put a period if it doesn't have a subject and a predicate. That means who, what you're talking about, and what they are doing or is in that sentence. And the last thing, spelling. Make sure that your words are spelled correctly. All right, so going back to this picture and picking one of these adjectives and nouns to write about. So here's one of the sentences that I came up with. The boy has on big goggles. Big being my adjective talking about the goggles. Or I can make an even better sentence and have this one. The dark haired boy has on big goggles. So I kind of made that sentence a little bit better. So either one I can use as my sentence. Then remember, I'm going to go back and check. So I'm going to just look at that first sentence that I have. The boy has on big goggles. And I'm going to go through my cups. Capitalization. Does my sentence begin with a capital letter? Yes, it does. That one's good. If I read my sentence or anyone else comes and read my sentence, can they understand it? The boy has on big goggles. Yes, they will. Punctuation. Do I have an ending of my sentence? I have a period. And spelling. Everything is spelled correctly. So I will get all 4 points for that sentence because it matched everything. Have the capitalization. You can understand it. There's an ending mark and the spelling is correct. Let's look at one more. All right, so here's another sentence that I can write about. This same picture. I think the boy found the silver goggles. That's one of my sentences. Or I can do this sentence. I think the smiling boy is happy he found the silver goggles. Either sentence. Both of them have adjectives describing what I'm seeing. And now we're going to check for the cups. Capitalization. Both of my sentences start with a capital letter. You can pick any sentence. Let's look at the second sentence for this one. So let's look at capitalization. Sentence starts with a capital letter. I see a capital I. And here's another thing, just as a side note. Whenever you write the word I by itself, please remember that it needs to be capitalized. It's one of those special words. So capitalized, my first sentence word is capitalized. If I read the sentence, if anyone else came along and read the sentence, will they understand it? I'm going to read it just to make sure. I think the smiling boy is happy he found the silver goggles. Yep, understanding is correct. Punctuation, have an ending mark, and my spelling is correct. So I will get all 4 points for that sentence. All right, so what you're going to do now is you're going to log into Google Classroom to complete the adjective activity. So let me explain what you're going to do. You're going to have 2 pictures in your assignment. You have a picture of some girls that look they're baking a cake. You have a picture of a little boy and perhaps his grandmother. You're going to just pick one of these pictures, or you can write one about one sentence, one about the other. Probably easier to write about one. So it says choose one of the pictures below. Write 3 sentences about the picture. Use lots of adjectives to describe the picture. Remember to check your sentences using cups. Capitalization, understanding, punctuation, and spelling. You can earn 4 points for each sentence that is written correctly using the cups checklist. So you are going to pick a picture and write 3 sentences about that picture. Do your best. Make sure you're checking and reading over it. Make sure you have the capitalization checked. You can read over it and make sense for understanding. You have an ending mark for your punctuation, and your spelling is correctly. Do your best. Be very creative with these sentences. Have fun.